Hi everyone, my name is Gabby, and my mom does everything she can to make me be the perfect kid. And she always has. My childhood was more like a maximum security prison than a childhood, because you have no idea how much her perfectionism has affected my life. From a very early age, two people watched over me, my mother and my nanny. If you think my mother worked or did things at home, yes, but in general, they just took care of me. And although we had the option of hiring house help, my mother did not do it for one reason only, because no one could do things the way she liked them. Even my father walked in line when he came home. For example, my mom hated it when my dad put his shoes unevenly on the shelf, didn't put the dishes in their place, didn't hang his keys on the key holder, didn't put the cup holder in, threw newspaper everywhere, didn't put the chair down, didn't hang his towel neatly, and so much more. So imagine what it was like for me as a child when I wanted to play, freak out, and throw everything around. So the babysitter hired someone to help with the cleaning when I messed things up. I was assigned a special room for toys, but I didn't have any space there either. There was nothing but a small couch for furniture, and everything else was toys. But even there, my mother tidied up every hour. And then I got a little older, and my mother asked me to help her clean up after myself. Of course, I only did it sometimes, and more often than not, I would forget. And then one day, she exploded. Mom ran into my playroom after 5 minutes of her cleaning. I had already had time to get all the toys out and scatter it again. She was yelling so much she was red, and I was so freaked out. The babysitter rushed in to help and quickly began to clean up herself, and my mom sat down on the floor and roared. "I'm tired of this mess. I'm tired of it all."
"So don't clean up."
"What? Don't clean? What will happen then?"
"Nothing will happen, Mom. Nothing will happen. The world won't collapse."
"What nonsense are you talking?"
"No, it's not nonsense. Ask the nanny."
"What's she got to do with it?" "We had a conversation. She asked me if I'm home like this with the kids, and I said no. She said if I don't clean for one day, it won't make the world go down." "Well, hello, then it's your daughter who's a mess, but I have to have everything perfect." "It's not a mess. I have order. But the kids are kids. What they do, they do. They play. I don't want to bother them, especially since I know they have fun. I'm not crazy." "What did you say? Are you saying I'm crazy?" "You know it yourself, and so does your daughter." "You are fired." "No, I'm resigning. I wanted to go back to my pigsty for a long time. Better there than with you. Bye, Gabby, and good luck with that woman in your life." The nanny left, and my mother and I were left alone. There was more responsibility put on Mom. She became more irritable, stopped having time for anything. Well, for me as a child, she had no time at all. My mother started yelling at my father and me, and our life became a living hell. It was incredibly hard for me to accept this, but what could I do? That's just the way she was, and that's how I grew up. As time went on, my toy room became more and more empty because my mother threw away all my toys every time or gave them away to other children. That way, she wanted to unload herself a little bit. I had no idea how my father lived with her, and that's what he said to her one day. "You're so stressed. Can you tone down your perfectionism a little bit?" "What did you say? Am I the only one who's trying? Do you have any idea how hard it is? Do you even—" And blah, blah, blah. Their fights became more frequent too, and with my mom's demands, no maid wanted to work in our house. And then I grew up. By then, I had some of the attitude passed on to me, but overall, it pissed me off. I woke up in the morning one day when I was 16 years old. I was going to school. "Your hair is sticking out of your head. Your skirt is creased. The heel of your shoe is dirty. You didn't even finish your mascara." "Okay, Mom. Okay, Mom. Okay, Mom." Until that time, I never had a single friend. I had one, but thanks to my mom, I didn't have her anymore. So I decided to go by myself. My dad and I became withdrawn. We stopped eating dinner as a family. Everyone preferred to eat separately. Dad gradually disappeared to work and then revealed his cards and ran off to his mistress. He left us everything, though. The money, the house, and the car. He left with just one suitcase. He just couldn't live like that anymore. That's all. And Mom got even angrier. Only now she was taking it out on me, making me clean up all the time. I would come home and every day my mother would meet me on the doorstep with gloves and a rag in hand. She'd then hand them to me and say, "Go clean." Mom made me wash hard-to-reach places with ear sticks, wash the dishes 5 times, get the closet in perfect order, clean the kitchen, bathroom, and shine my shoes. And when she added it all up, she took it to the next level. It occurred to her, why not make me perfect all over? So she started controlling my classes, my communication, going through all my correspondence. I couldn't get any relief. Life became a living hell, and one day I just exploded from the pressure. I was no longer in the mood that day. On the way to school, it rained, the car poured mud in on me, and I already imagined how I'd have to wash it up for 3 hours in the afternoon. My mood plummeted. At school, my pen leaked and stained my notebook, and I was upset that I'd have to rewrite it all. But then, something unexpected happened. I was invited to a girls' night out by my classmates. They had organized a party and decided to make friends with me. I was so excited. It even made me in a better mood. I ran home all excited, and I told my mom about it. But all she saw was the dirt on me, and she almost got hysterical. I promised to wash everything if only she'd let me go. But she said that until I'd washed the whole house, I wouldn't be going anywhere. But it will take me 4 hours to clean this. Tomorrow is Saturday. I'll do everything tomorrow. Until you do it, you can't go. Mom, what kind of monster are you? This is the first time I've ever been invited somewhere, and you're acting like this? I'm acting like this? If you're such a pig, what can I do about it? You have to be perfect in everything. Really? If I have such a non-perfect life, why do you even try, Mother? What did you say? What do you mean? You have no friends and never had any? Your husband left for some old lady just to avoid being here. But that didn't teach you anything. You're still terrorizing me. You take that back. I won't. You'll regret it. What are you gonna do? You've already ruined my life. Oh, I've ruined your life? Then my phone rang. It was the girls. They wanted to pick me up in the car on the way home. And my mom went outside and started saying that I wasn't going anywhere, that I was grounded. But what's worse, she called the girls promiscuous and told them not to come near our house anymore. Boom. That was the explosion of my last nerve. Go clean up till the house shines, okay? Mom got ready and went to a neighbor's house for a visit, telling me to make sure the house shone by the time she got back. At first, I sat there crying, and then suddenly, an idea came to me. If there's nothing to clean, might as well disinfect it, I said to myself. I went to Dad's garage, found a can of old gasoline there, spilled it all over the house, went out into the yard, and looked at the doorstep. Mom saw me through the window of the neighbor's house and waved, like, go clean up. I looked at her and lit a match and threw it on the doorstep. The house instantly burst into flames, and my mom, looking out the neighbor's window, froze. The house started to go up in flames, and I stepped back a little bit and watched the whole thing. I didn't care that it was on fire. I even enjoyed it. A neighbor called the fire department, and the police came. My mom and I were taken to the station, where we filled out some papers. My mother hasn't spoken to me since. We lived at the neighbor's house for a while. She was always watching me, probably afraid I'd burn her house down too. Everything burned down. The fire was reported in the press, and my dad came to see me. You know, the first thing he said was that he had wanted to do the same thing for a long time, but he never made up his mind to. Mom hates me now. Come visit me. What about your new family? I don't have one. I live alone. I just couldn't live in that house with your mom. I was tired. So am I. Come live with me then. I bet Mom would be happy if I did. I packed up the rest of my things and left. I haven't seen my mom since. My neighbor says she's gone somewhere. So that's what her perfectionism drove her to.
Sup, my name is Alex. Tell me guys, many of you probably want to quickly become adults and independent, right? It's so cool to make your own decisions, to live the way you want, and in general, not to ask anyone's permission, including your parents. So I recently went through a similar thing. Yes, my mother decided to give me the green light for everything. We had an agreement. And now I want to tell you about my experience and what I went through. In general, listen. I have both a father and mother. I was born a late child in the family. My parents couldn't get pregnant for years, and that's probably why when I was born, my mother was especially protective of me. From the first moment she took me in her arms, she never let me go, so my father said. My mother wouldn't let anyone hold me, didn't show me to any of her friends for the first 6 months, and I don't think even the neighbors really knew she'd given birth. My mother was too careful, but it made her feel better. It was her love. My father had assumed that all this was temporary, that as soon as I grew up, my mother would be more relaxed about everything, but he was wrong. You know, the older I got, the more problems my mother had. For example, every time I went to the kitchen to turn on the kettle to drink tea or cocoa, my mother would run in at the speed of light and take any equipment out of my hands. She thought that I could get burned, hurt, or even die, and preferred to do it herself. But that's half the trouble. I still have a radio nanny in my bedroom, so you understand, I'm already 16 years old. My mother is calmer when she hears me snoring, and if I turn off the radio, she runs to my room and listens to me breathe, and in the morning I'm in trouble. Until recently, my mother did not let me go for a walk with friends, and if she let me go, then I had to return home no later than 2000. All my friends already mocked me, but if I was late for at least 15 minutes, my mother began to get hysterical. She immediately put pressure on Pity, her advanced age, and on the fact that she has a weak heart. I was getting tired of it. I wondered why I was paying the price for being born so late. I'm not allowed to breathe freely at all. My every step is monitored, and my mother's overprotection is seen by everyone except herself. And one day, I rebelled. It happened at one of the parties. My classmate Spence invited me to his house. He promised me to introduce me to a girl that I have long liked. Her name was Nellie. Of course, my mom again only let me go until 2000 hours, whereas the party started at 1900 hours. I wanted to argue with her, but then I thought, I will not spoil the mood. Just do everything quietly, silently, and in fact, I will sort it out at home. I packed up and went to a party just before the weekend. I'm in a great mood. There were a lot of people at the party, well, including Nellie. Spence introduced us, as promised, and the time flew by so fast that I didn't notice it was already 20:30. Nellie and I went out on the balcony, drinking juice and chatting about something. All of a sudden, my phone was just tearing apart, and I could see my mom calling. I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of the girl, and I stupidly dumped. Finally, when my mom called me 23 times, Nellie asked if she was a girl who was hitting on me. I said, No, that's it. The house is ringing. Apparently they want something. I'll call you back later, I said, and turned off the phone. Nellie and I chatted and paid no attention to anyone. Then we got hungry and decided to go downstairs. I took her hand and we went down the stairs. Nellie was just an unreal girl. I've been wanting to meet her for so long. Alex, why did you turn off the phone? A voice that was painfully familiar to me. It sounded all over the house. I looked up and saw my mother looking furious. She was standing in the middle of a house in slippers and homely clothes, her hands folded on her hips and glaring at me. I immediately ran to her. I wanted to take her as far as possible, but she continued to yell. She was furious. You're being punished. There will be no internet for a week, no pocket money for you, and just try to turn off the radio nanny now, she shouted. At that moment, my world collapsed. When everyone heard about the radio nanny, the whole house exploded with laughter. Everyone looked at me and laughed, and I wanted to sink into the ground. I grabbed my mother's hand, and without even saying goodbye to anyone, I drove home. I didn't talk to her all the way, and when we got home I told her what I was thinking. I shouted that she had shamed me in front of the guys, especially the girl, that I was tired of her tutelage and control, that I wanted freedom, to which my mother told me that I was not independent at all. You're giving me opportunities to become one. How old am I now? And you're acting like I'm 2 years old. My father intervened, trying to calm us all down, and then said we were both going too far. He talked to my mother that I was right about something, and then asked me not to raise my voice to my mother anymore. My mother was very unhappy, and then said that she gives me 1 month without any restrictions on anything. We agreed, and from the very next day, I began to live a different life. I cleaned up the radio nanny, made my own breakfast. It was such bliss. I packed my own bag for school and decided with my friends on my weekend plans. Every day was precious. I was just happy to be free. I worked at school from morning till lunch, and then went for a walk with Nellie. By the way, she reacted with understanding to the situation, said that she has a strict father, so she understands me. We started dating. I came home late. At first it seemed to me, it's a buzz, but after a week I almost didn't get enough sleep. My mother didn't really talk to me, so as not to annoy herself once again, so I didn't climb. Then I went back to the party. To be honest, I was a little freaked out by the freedom. For the weekend, I went back to the party, as I said, so that's where I tried alcohol for the first time. I was so carried away that I didn't even notice. I didn't understand what was wrong with me. Nellie tried to stop me, but I didn't listen to her. I drank more, and then decided to try to smoke, which made me feel even worse. At some point, I think I passed out, came to myself in the morning. I didn't remember where I was or with whom. The house was unfamiliar to me. It was dirty and uncomfortable. I looked in the refrigerator for a drink, drank some juice, took a shower, and then went to look for a house. In the yard I met someone. It was probably the owner of the house. He shook my hand and called me crazy and offered to continue. I am without hesitation, agreed, and we drank again. In the afternoon we wanted to eat, but there was no food, as well as money. We went with him to the market drunk, took food without asking, and began to eat. The owner of the store chased us. We began to run away. He called the police. That guy easily dodged the cops when they arrived. They almost grabbed him, but he set me up. Yes, he pushed me towards them and then ran away. I only sobered up at the station. I was terribly ashamed in front of my father when he came to pull me out. It turns out that I was not at home for 3 days, and I did not even remember where I was and with whom. Dad pulled me out, and I came home all swollen, dirty, and smelly. My mother didn't ask a word. After I took a shower, I went over to her and apologized. "Son, are you in trouble?" asked the mother. I lied to her, told her everything was fine. And then my mother said something I didn't expect to hear. "I'm sorry, it's my fault. If I hadn't held you back so much, if I hadn't banned everything, you wouldn't have gone to the police. I wouldn't drink myself into oblivion. Everything should have its time," she said. These words sounded sincere. I did not expect to hear this, but suddenly I realized that I was also stupid and screwed up. I asked her for forgiveness, and we agreed to respect each other's boundaries, to be close, but to get into each other's lives by force. My father said it was the right thing to do. Well, what do you guys think? My mother and I have kept our word ever since. I didn't drink or smoke anymore, but my mom trusted me more and threw out the radio nanny. Yo nanny.